Hello, everybody. This is John Corcoran with the Right Choice Slate. We're continuing with our series of what we are going to do after we get elected to run the executive board of Local 2750. Today, I have Don Sorentino, who is the candidate for recording secretary, and he plans to discuss some things with you that I think will be very interesting for you to know. Don, how are you today?
Good, John. How are you? Thanks for having me on the piece here.
Yeah, go ahead. I know you have some things about the finances that are on your mind, so please, the stage is yours.
All right. Well, thanks, John, and thanks, guys. I just have a little informational piece about union finances, and I would just like to go over some of the details from the last union general membership meeting and about how we're spending finances and maybe a little bit of education on it. So, one of the largest expenditures for the local in first quarter of 2024 was flight pay loss. For those of you who don't know what flight pay loss is, it's essentially union business days. So, if you are a volunteer for a committee or a steward and you get your awarded schedule for the month and you need time off from those flying days in order to do the union business, the union will pay 5 hours a day to the company for taking you off the flight schedule, and then they will pay you to do whatever union work you have elected to do for those days. An example of that would be one of our stewards who's maybe a captain who would take 5 days off for a grievance meeting in Cincinnati. That captain's a $300 an hour captain. Those 5 days would cost the union $7,500. So when you look at the general membership meeting numbers, their last meeting, our total revenue for the 3 months was $2,300,000 and change. They spent out of that about $1.7 million. And out of that $1.7 million, $900,000 of that was flight pay loss. So essentially, that's $300,000 a month that they're paying for volunteers to do union business. Just to give you a little example of what we'd like to do if we're given the opportunity to represent you folks on the e-board, we would like to hire full-time business agents to do the work, the heavy lifting that most of these stewards and scheduling committee guys do with professional business agents. And I'll give you an example of that. So if we had 3 paralegals at $100,000 a year salary, and then if we had 3 analysts or secretaries or whatever you'd like to call them, office professionals at $65,000 a year, all 6 of those people working full time in the office would only be $42,000 a month. That would be a $260,000 a month savings. And that's just one example of how we would be able to be more fiscally responsible than the current leadership. Another large portion of that, but the general membership meeting of that first quarter budget was travel, which was $170,000, and they actually went over their budgeted amount by $20,000. Well, a lot of that travel money, it coincides with these union business days, because for each person that needs to volunteer, they need to usually get to Cincinnati for these meetings. So you have airline tickets, rental cars, meals, and expenses. If we had full-time employees at the local, they wouldn't need any of that travel budget. So that would be another huge savings that we would have. And then with the savings that we would save you, the crew members, the members, we would be able to put that into services for you guys. I mean, maybe an app, for the local, maybe a payroll calculator so everybody can catch the mistakes that Atlas Payroll continuously makes. A larger war chest for negotiations, more expensive, high-priced negotiators. Also, we would be able to empower all the committees. We have 32 committees as part of our local. None of those committee heads have any extra money that they do for their volunteers. So we could very easily give each committee head a stipend. We could give them equipment like laptops and cell phones, and we could empower them to do their job. And we can empower them to do all sorts of projects to provide services for the crew members. So this is just one example of what we'd like to do as far as being fiscally responsible. And I just wanted all you guys to understand a little bit about these general membership meetings and how important it is to participate and pay attention to where your union dues are being spent. John, that's all I got on that.
You and Pete Tanner and Mark South have been doing union work at Atlas Air and Southern for a number of years. And in the say 10 years ago period, uh, we didn't have the kind of finances that we're talking about now. And it appears that the way that this current leadership is operating is that if you have the money, you spend it. And so could you get into what kind of the way the budgets were operated in the years past and under other leadership?
Yeah, so when I used to be a steward under uh, Bob Kirshner, he was very frugal with the money. We would jump seat back and forth to wherever we volunteered. We would never get rental cars. It was probably a tenth of the amount of money that we spend now. Obviously, we didn't have the revenue that we do now. And that is the way it seems to me when I look at these numbers, the way that they operate. If they have the money, they spend the money. And essentially, it creates a special interest with very few committee members getting the largest portion of the dues paid back to them in this form of flight pay loss. And it creates a loyalty system where nobody wants to cross anything that the e-board says because they're essentially on the dole. They're getting extra days off at home and fully compensated for those days spent at home, and they don't have to fly. So it creates a sort of pilot welfare program, or a bribe for loyalty program, whatever you want to call it. But it's much different than the way things used to run.
Yeah, agreed. Now, there's a requirement by the Department of Labor that every year a union has to file a financial statement, and that's called an LM2. And we're going to make that available on the website for people to see. You can get it now if you want. You just have to know how to get it, and it kind of takes a couple steps. But we've already taken those steps, so we have it. So we'll go ahead and we'll put it up so people can see that in 2023, we brought in about $9.5 million, and it also details out the union members who actually received those monies, and then also it details out where other monies were spent for events held at hotels or travel and airlines and that sort of thing. So there is a degree of financial transparency that the Department of Labor requires. However, that report has never been shared with the members, and we intend on making that report visible to everybody. And in speaking to Malvika, she intends on creating a report every month, so we can see where our money is going. You also something else you said that raised a lot of attention, and that is that whenever a negotiation is entered into, whether it's a whole new contract or maybe opening up a particular part of the contract, the negotiator needs to know what the details are, and those details come from the committees. And so, in order for the committees to be effective, they have to be funded because the the, the committee chairman and the committee members they're out busy flying the line, and then they have days off that they spend time with their family. So if they're going to effectively do their jobs, they need to be relieved. We have we I don't think that we have any problem with relieving people from flight pay or from flight duty, but it has to be done effectively. And so we only need to release the amount of people required to be able to get the information to the people that are going to be negotiating with the company.
Absolutely, John. I agree. I have no problem with pilots being relieved for union business. I just think it is right now at a scale that is very large, and it does not need to be that way. We can do things in a much more efficient manner.
Yeah, yeah. When I first got here, the way I understood the way the union worked was it was all volunteers. Because if you look at the emails that we get sent every month, it says volunteers needed. Well, it's actually not a volunteer army. It's a paid job, and we're probably employing far too many people and spending far too much money. Did you hear that Alpa just decided that they had become so financially healthy that they could afford to rebate back $50 million of collected dues to all their members?
No, John, that's the first I've heard about that. But
Yeah,
I think with this type of savings, I mean, the sky's the limit with what we can do. I mean, we're a very healthy organization. There's no reason to be just wasting this money.
yeah, I agree. Well, I think we covered it, Don, and I appreciate it. We're what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get out short bits of information to be able to have people listen to on when they have time. And we've reached about 12 minutes of time here, so I think this is a good time to wrap it up. So, everybody, thanks for your involvement in trying to get yourself fully informed so you could make this vote. And until next time, everybody, please fly safe.
Thanks, John.
All right, Don. See ya.
See ya.